Welcome everyone to this explainer. Today we are going to dive into this invisible yet incredibly deep web that literally governs how we interact, how we think, and how we build our world. I'm talking about language. It's a system so seamless we honestly barely even notice it most of the time, yet it is the absolute foundation of human culture. It really is our human superpower.
But before we get into the everyday mechanics of how we use words today, we really have to ask ourselves a pretty massive fundamental question. How did humans actually develop this unique ability to speak in the first place? I mean, how did we go from instinctual grunts to crafting these complex, multi-layered sentences?
Well, to answer that, we can look to linguist Edward Sapir. Back in 1921, he nailed it by defining language as a purely human, non-instinctive method of communicating via voluntarily produced symbols. This is absolutely crucial because it grounds our whole narrative. Language isn't just some biological reflex we're born with, like breathing or blinking. It's a distinct, voluntarily produced tool that we use to construct our entire reality.
Okay, so here's our roadmap for today. We're going to quickly cover what language actually is, its mysterious origins, how it works in real time, the gap between speaking and writing, the incredible development of sign language, and finally, we'll look at the fragile future of languages across the globe. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. What is language? Defining the human experience. To start our tour, we need to define what exactly language is and why it makes us so fundamentally different from every other creature on Earth.
The contrast here is actually brilliant. On the one hand, human language is this incredibly dynamic, learned social institution. When a baby is born, it absorbs the language of its environment. We can take our symbols, break them down into tiny parts, like letters and sounds, and just endlessly remix them into completely new thoughts. It's kind of like a giant set of Lego bricks. But on the other hand, animal communication is genetically inherited. It's static. An animal's call doesn't evolve over a few generations to describe, say, abstract philosophies or new technology. So, human language is fluid. It's deeply tied to our thoughts, and it is endlessly adaptable.
Section 2. The origin of language. Tracing the first words. Moving along chronologically, let's explore that mystery of how our early ancestors uttered their very first meaningful words.
So, since there's obviously no physical fossil record for speech, words don't exactly leave behind bones in the dirt, linguists lean on three really fascinating origin theories. First up is the imitation theory, the idea that early humans just mimicked environmental sounds. Think of words like buzz or hiccup. Second, we have the exclamation theory, which suggests language evolved from spontaneous gut reaction vocalizations of fear, pain, or joy. And third, the cooperative work theory, where people grunted in rhythm just to synchronize their manual labor. You can almost picture early humans acting this out, right? Slowly turning those shared rhythms and shouts into structural communication.
Section 3. Defining characteristics of language. The micromechanics of speech. Let's zoom way in now and look at what is actually happening in our brains when we talk to each other in real time.
This number right here is absolutely wild. Neuroscientist Ernst Popel calls this the perceptual frame, and it proves that our brains process spoken information in bursts of roughly 3 seconds. That means our foresight when we are speaking live is highly limited. We are quite literally constructing our thoughts on the fly in these tiny 3-second cognitive windows.
Now, because of this 3-second rule, and just the unpredictable nature of talking live, our spoken language is fundamentally different from, say, a polished essay. We naturally rely heavily on filler words like or ah, prosodic pauses, and we are constantly self-correcting. For decades, some linguists thought these were just sloppy mistakes. But modern research shows that no, these are actually essential, subconscious tools. We use them to keep the communication channel open, to signal to the other person that we're still thinking, and to make sure the listener is actually following along.
Which brings us to Section 4, written and spoken language. Two sides of the same coin. Let's see how all this builds into the distinct differences between the words we speak and the words we write down.
It's really fascinating to look at how written language provides this enduring, rule-bound historical record. Writing allows for time, for planning, and for really strict grammar. It's totally decoupled from the immediate moment. But spoken language? That is a highly adaptable, fleeting medium. It relies on immediate context, on gestures, and the real-time social dynamics between you and whoever you're talking to. Spoken language can totally afford to be grammatically incomplete, because a simple look or a quick hand gesture just fills in all the blanks.
And just keeping things purely objective here, it's vital to note the dynamic between a standardized high language and vernacular or regional dialects. Take Istanbul Turkish, for example. It serves as a standardized anchor, primarily used for official writing and broadcasting. Meanwhile, regional dialects just naturally evolve through daily local interactions. Neither one is inherently superior to the other. They just serve totally different societal functions. The high language provides a unified standard for mass communication, while the vernacular builds local community and a shared identity.
Section 5. The development of sign language. Communicating visually. What's really interesting here is how humanity's need to communicate visually birthed an entirely new form of language mapping. This timeline maps the birth of written sign language, and the story is incredible. Back in 1966, a 15-year-old American named Valerie Sutton invented a shorthand just to note down her ballet choreographies. But by 1974, researchers in Denmark realized this dance notation could actually be adapted to record the previously unwritten physical movements of sign language. It organically evolved from a teenager's personal dance shorthand into the very first modern written record of sign language, eventually becoming digitized computer software by 1986. That completely changed deaf education and linguistic research worldwide. But you might be wondering, what happens when deaf individuals from different countries who use completely different native sign languages meet at global events like the Deaflympics? Well, to bridge that gap, a unified artificial system called Justuno was created in 1951 by the World Federation of the Deaf. It's a lot like Esperanto for spoken languages. Justuno pulls together signs from all over the world to facilitate international communication. Crucially, we have to remember that sign languages are definitely not just word-for-word visual translations of spoken languages. If you're translating spoken English to American Sign Language, you aren't just signing English words in order. Sign languages possess their own incredibly rich, independent grammars. Because they use physical three-dimensional space, a single fluid hand movement combined with a facial expression can convey a complex, multi-layered sentence all at exactly the same time. Linguists actually call this feature incorporation.
Okay, Section 6. The future of languages, a fragile global heritage. Let's zoom back out to look at the macro picture and the rather fragile future of our world's linguistic diversity. 6,912. According to a comprehensive 2005 National Geographic report, that is the staggering number of active languages currently spoken across our globe. It sounds like a massive, incredibly diverse number, right? One that reflects thousands of different beautiful cultures.
However, the data here is honestly shocking. More than half of these languages, around 55%, are currently facing extinction. Because of globalization, mass media, and shifting populations, these smaller languages are failing to be passed down to new generations, and when the last elders who speak them passed away, the language goes right along with them. We are literally on track to erase thousands of distinct communication systems within the next century.
Which leaves us with this final, really provocative thought to ponder today. Language isn't just a utility for passing the salt at dinner, you know? It forms the perceptual boundaries of how a culture views the universe, their history, and their own identity. So, if language is the ultimate carrier of human culture, what pieces of our collective humanity are we losing forever, every single time a language goes silent? Thank you so much for exploring the superpower of language with me today. Keep asking those big questions, and I'll see you in the next explainer.